All right, we're live, so I'll do it now. Okay, three, two, one. And now we welcome on a very special guest onto the show. We have with us from Barstool Sports and Spittin' Chicklets a esteemed college hockey writer, as well as the producer for the immensely popular podcast Spittin' Chicklets that you can find on Barstool as well. We have Mike Grinelli joining us to answer some questions about the hockey world. So, Mike, what's going on? Thanks for joining us.
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me on. Happy to join the podcast.
All right, so I guess we'll just kick it off right away. Like I said, obviously you're immersed with the college hockey scene, and for maybe hockey fans who watch the NHL more so than they watch college hockey, they haven't had a chance to follow the collegiate level as much this season or as much as they'd like. Who are some teams that you really like so far this season? Who you think might be poised to make a Frozen Four run? Maybe a few dark horse teams as well that people aren't necessarily talking about. Just would like to hear your thoughts about some teams that maybe fans would be wise to check out if they're interested in tuning into some college hockey this year.
Yeah, so it's a really good year in college hockey. There's no one like a guy like Jack Eichel, or you saw a guy like Anders Bjork last year, or just someone that's just completely dominating. But I mean, it's a really good year. There's a lot of good teams. I really like Denver. With from Troy Terry to Henrik Borgstrom to Tanner Gillette on the back end. I really like Denver, but they've been struggling lately. St. Cloud State's a team who I really like again too. They're coming in at number 3 on my Spittin' Chicklets rankings this weekend, after splitting with Western Michigan this past week. So between those two teams and then, the Big Ten, I love the Big Ten. I'm a huge Big Ten and college hockey guy. A lot of people say it's ruined college hockey, but, I personally love it. From Notre Dame, who's the number 1 team in the country in my rankings. They're so much fun to watch. They're a hard team. I've actually been, on them since day one of the season. I've been a big Notre Dame guy. Penn State, too. I really like Penn State and Ohio State as well. All tough barns to play in, tough place to play. And, I think come tournament time, they're going to be real tough. And, Clarkson as well. Clarkson's dominating the ECAC this year. I believe they're 10-0 right now in the ECAC, which is pretty remarkable. So, there's some, those are the guys who were, in front, some dark horses, teams like Providence. Providence is a team that, I wrote about it in my college hockey rankings this week, that I have them at number 10 on the Spittin' Chicklets rankings. And I think most people that watch college hockey a lot just, would never really doubt the Friars. And, Harvard's a team I really like as well. They start off the season really slow, and so it's going to be tough for them to even get into the tournament. But they have a loaded roster from, Foxy on the back end. Then you got Ryan Donato up front. I mean, they're just a team I love as well. So, between those front teams and those teams, I just named on the back end, I think come tournament time, it's gonna be real fun to watch.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned a little bit about the Big Ten there. We mentioned off air, me and Nick we're U of I guys. And in about the last 2 or 3 months, there's been rumblings that U of I, they're thinking about getting a D1 hockey team. So, if we could just get your immediate thoughts on that, because Chicago's kind of an untapped market for hockey, or at least it's starting to get more notoriety with guys like, especially Ryan Hartman, making it into the show. So yeah, what do you think we could do?
I mean, I think that's awesome. Yeah, when U of I got named as one of the schools that's in that NCAA NHL study that they're doing, trying to get bigger schools to adapt to college hockey. I mean, I think it's great. I went at it on Twitter with someone a couple weeks ago about just how this kid was saying like how the Big Ten ruined college hockey because we don't get to see, the Minnesota, North Dakota matchups anymore as much as we used to. And, I understand all that, but at the same time, I mean, go to a game at Penn State and tell me that's not good for college hockey. Like that, go to a game at Notre Dame and tell me that's not good for college hockey. They get airtime on TV. They get national television time. I think it's great for the game. And yeah, I mean, if you can get a huge school like U of I to, get a Division I team, that would be awesome. Especially, I couldn't agree more with what you said. I mean, Chicago, there's really no college hockey out there right now. Now that I think about it, I mean, I feel like Wisco. If I was to say, if who would Chicago people root for, I'd probably say Wisco because they're
right
really,
in the Frozen Four.
Yeah,
the Frozen Four was in Chicago this past year, and Notre Dame was the host. So there really isn't a team. And Notre Dame's in Northwest Indiana, but it's still a hike.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that would be great. And, from what we're seeing with Arizona State, I think that's a program that's really going to develop a lot more in the next coming years. And, you're hearing UNLV. UNLV is a school that, they're also trying to get on the Division I train. But, I'm a big club hockey guy. So, I pay attention to the ACHA a lot, and I see all those schools that do well, like University of Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Nebraska. Those schools, they have really legitimate club hockey programs that, you hope someday those schools can be able to compete at the Division I level. And I just think it would be fantastic for the game.
Yeah, and then just kind of sticking with the college hockey theme with the Hobey Baker Award, who would you think would be I don't know, maybe your top 3 candidates for the trophy, give the folks at home, if they don't know, maybe the top 3 players to take a look at.
Yeah. So right now, I really, really like Ryan Donato out of Harvard, junior Boston Bruins draft pick. He's averaging almost a point and a half per game. He's averaging over a goal a game, which, I mean, if you look in the past 5 years, that's more than, Jimmy Vesey, Johnny Gaudreau, Kyle Connor, who were, some of the best, more than Jack Eichel, guys that, have really dominated at the college level. Ryan Donato is putting up better numbers than them right now. So I'm excited, to see, him throughout the rest of the year, but he's going to go over to South Korea and go to Pyeongchang for the Olympics. So, that's probably going to hurt his chances at a Hobey Baker. So, next I look to Northeastern with Adam Gaudette and Dylan Sakura. These two guys, Adam's a junior, Dylan's a senior. They're the dynamic duo. They're so fun to watch. You really could give either one of them the Hobey this year. Adam Gaudette's on the verge of breaking Northeastern's all-time, I believe the all-time point record for Northeastern. He's on the verge of breaking that. He's averaging, almost 1.6 points per game, which is out of this world. In 22 games, he's got 35 points. That's pretty absurd. Sakura too. Sakura's he's awesome. Just did some time with Team Canada for the Spengler Cup, I believe. He's a Blackhawks draft pick. I think he's an absolute stud, and I'm lucky that I'm in Boston and I'm able to watch these guys, very easily. Just a trip down to Matthews Arena over by Fenway Park. When watch them, it's real fun. But I also look to Henrik Borgstrom and sophomore from Denver. He's lighting it up this year with around I think he's got 30 points in 21 games this year. So I mean, it's up for grabs this year. It's not so set in stone like it's been in past years. But I'd really like to see one of the guys from Northeastern bring it home between Gaudette and Sakura. I like how they've stayed till their juniors and seniors, and I really like how they play. I like everything they bring to the table. I really like that Northeastern team a lot. And shout out to Boston too. Boston College Hockey. The top 3 guys right now in points per game in the entire NCAA. All 3 play hockey in Boston, and Gaudette, Sakura, and Donato. So that's a plus right there. A little humble brag.
All right, just switching a little bit over to the World Juniors, which wrapped up a few weeks ago. On the American side, we saw guys like Casey Middlestat, Brady Tkachuk, studs, and then guys over in Europe like the obvious, future number 1 overall pick, Rasmus Dahlin. Was there anyone in particular that caught your eye that you're excited to see going forward, heading towards the draft?
Adam Fox from Harvard. I really, really liked watching him play. I thought he was kind of the catalyst on the back end for Team USA, and Casey Middlestad as well. I mean, we had Case on Spit and Chicklets a few weeks ago, and really, really nice kid, very laid back, very humble, and a lot of comparisons to Patrick Kane. I'm pretty sure Patty Kane was the other guy who couldn't do a pull up at the combine. But I mean, Casey Middlestad is he's going to make fans in Buffalo very, 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 very happy. And Brady Tkachuk's again. You mentioned his name, and he's a guy that I didn't think was going to do as well as he did in the World Juniors. I don't think he's done necessarily like that great at BU this year. At least I thought he would do better. And he really propelled himself from, bottom, he was probably going in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range of the draft. And now after that, I mean, he's looking at probably, 3, 4, 5, he'll probably go. But I mean, again, those guys were great. Then you look to like Sweden. Rasmus Dahlin is unbelievable. I wrote something today I tweeted out something today, basically that, the Coyotes should think about parting ways with Oliver Ekman-Larsson and, kind of going all in on Rasmus Dahlin. And he's a franchise changer. I think he's really something special, and he's going to make one team very, very happy come draft time.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Definitely agree with the Tkachuk thing. He's definitely propelled himself up, and the similarities between him and his brother, and his dad even, are quite astounding. It's pretty crazy to watch him out there. He's just an animal. Switching gears a little bit. Yeah, he is. Switching gears a little bit. You're a big Boston fan, a big Bruins fan, from out that way. What are their chances this year of going on a deep run? Obviously in the offseason, there's a little bit of drama with Pasta, taking a bit to get signed there. And it seems kind of, I mean, they got him for a good deal, but it's kind of crazy that it took so long. And Tuukka Rask doesn't always get his due, but he's an elite top 3 goaltender in the league. And Cassidy seems like a really good hire for them full time. Do you think they have a legitimate chance this year of uprooting teams such as Tampa, Washington, and suddenly Pittsburgh, who's playing well again in a 7-game series?
Absolutely. I mean, well, taking down Tampa is obviously going to be tough, but it's hockey, so we've seen crazier things happen. But in with hockey, you never know. I mean, going into the playoffs, Kucherov could take a slap shot to the face and break his jaw and miss the rest of the playoffs. Who knows? But I think this Bruin team is awesome. They've done really everything right. Everything's gone right essentially for them. When injuries have happened, they've unlike in years past, you've kind of always seen that. That's been the problem with the Bruins, is when guys go down, they don't have the guys that can step in and fill in and create offense and at least provide defensive depth on the back end. And it's been awesome to see that this year with all the young guys stepping in. And I'm a huge Jake DeBrusk fan, just watching him play. He plays just like his dad. He plays very physical, very fast, and he always makes stuff happen. And then you have Chucky McAvoy on the back end. Charlie's been awesome this year. He's a great kid. I've been able to interact with him a little here and there because of Spit and Chicklets, and that kid he's got it all. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's got all the talent in the world to be a Norris defenseman. So yeah, I absolutely think this team could make a run. We look at last year. We saw Nashville as an 8 seed make that playoff run with guys like Victor Arvidsson being playoff heroes. So come playoff time, if you get a hot goalie, you really never know. And like you said, Tuukka Rask really doesn't get his the credit he deserves. We talk about it all the time on the podcast, and it's just ridiculous here in Boston how some of the fans treat him. A lot of them just don't understand hockey, and people in Boston always need a scapegoat. They need someone to point the finger at. Hence why John Farrell, won the division for the Red Sox and 2 years in a row, and he gets fired. everyone in Boston always needs to blame someone as to why we didn't win the championship. And in hockey, it's just like the quarterback or the pitcher, or the manager. It's, the easiest one to point the finger at. So that's why Rask gets so much shit. But yeah, boys, I do think I think the Bees could make a run at this. It's gonna be tough to take down Tampa, though.
Yeah, well, for sure. But that would be a hell of a series either way.
Oh, yeah.
And then two teams that you're kind of familiar with. The most obvious one would be Montreal because of the, huge rivalry over the years. And the other one would be Edmonton. Chiarelli being the former GM of Boston and now moving on to Edmonton. And, for Montreal, I feel like it's been the same thing over the last, 3-4 years, whatever it is. They're not fun to watch. And, they play this slow game and it's fucking brutal. And then you've got Edmonton, who last year, surprised everybody, going super far in the playoffs, making a deep run when nobody maybe thought they would. And now they're just kind of average. So, maybe your thoughts on, what can these two teams do while the deadline is kind of looming and, obviously, they need to pick it up somehow one way or the other if they're going to make it into the playoffs. Is there anything that you see that they can do to better their chances for this year?
I mean, what shit shows they have become in Montreal and Edmonton. I mean, Peter Chiarelli is such a jackass. I honestly can't believe that people still consider him a good general manager, and it blows my mind. Like, over and over and over again, this guy gives out bad contracts and makes bad trades, and yet because he won a cup in Boston with a roster that he didn't even form himself, he's getting credit for that, and that just blows my mind. So, I mean, he's completely dismantled what they were building in Edmonton. I mean, traded 2 number 1 overall picks or 2 first-round picks in Ebbs and Halsey. And, what does that team need right now? That team needs scoring. And what did they just get rid of? They got rid of scoring. So
yeah,
it's just a joke. And
yeah,
then you look
go ahead.
Well, and then you look at Montreal, too. You look at Montreal, and that's a shit show as well, too. I mean, we were talking about on Spit and Chicklets this week. It's just Marc Bergevin. Holy shit. I know he's a nice guy and all, and everyone loves him, but Jesus Christ, what is he doing up there? And look, I love Claude Julien and everything he did for us here in Boston, but oh my God, like, that's his style of play. It's you can't just have your guys get over the blue line and rip clap bombs on net. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's a faster game, and like you said, they're not fun to watch. They clearly have team problems. Another team who can't score, and they want to trade away Max Pacioretty. Like, Max Pacioretty's in the top 5 in the past 5 years of goals scored. He's a high 30, 40 goal scorer every year. So, I mean, it's a shit show in Montreal. It's a shit show in Edmonton, and it's a damn shame because, hockey is so much better and funner when those Canadian teams are in it and competitive, and especially Edmonton with McDavid, and I still can't believe they traded away Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle for the trades they did. I mean, it's just Peter Chiarelli is such a goddamn bum.
Well, and we were just talking about him on the last week's podcast too, because I mean, you're super familiar with it. Tyler Seguin's another one that he's traded away.
That goal today was sick. That goal today was unreal.
Yeah. Oh my God, that goal was filthy.
That was beautiful. But yeah, I mean, again, that trade, he sends him down to Dallas, and they get it's like Brendan Morrow and Louis Eriksson was one, but Louis Eriksson's not Tyler Seguin.
Yeah, and Riley Smith, and
exactly, it was an absolute joke.
Yeah, I mean, that's a joke of a trade. I have essentially PTSD thinking about.
I was going to say it probably haunts you still.
It does. It definitely does. But at the same time, I mean, it's just I just don't understand how, like I said before, how this guy. I mean, it all leads back to Peter Chiarelli. It all points back to Peter Chiarelli, and I know, the Bruins released an episode of Behind the B, which is a documentary series that follows the team around, basically of the director of scouting, the assistant GM, everyone signing off being like, oh, we should trade Tyler Seguin. Well, you know what? Then they were all wrong, and they all look like assholes. But at the end of the day, it's Peter Chiarelli that makes that call. And he screwed the Bruins for years to come, and right now he's screwing Edmonton. So I hope they fire Peter Chiarelli. I'm not someone who ever really calls for anyone's job and says someone should get fired, just because I kind of think that's fucked up. But I mean, Peter Chiarelli should get fired. Those people in Edmonton jerk off to hockey, and it's it's sad that they finally have all the pieces in place to be a Stanley Cup team, and Chiarelli screws them.
Yeah, I said Chiarelli's ass should have gotten fired last week. I totally agree that those trades were botched. Adam Larson, he's a good defenseman. He's a good stay-at-home guy. He was in New Jersey, but acts the game in the same way that a guy like Taylor Hall can. I think Taylor Hall is like an elite left winger in this league. And a good team, 75, 80 points a year. And I mean, he was putting up big-time numbers on really bad teams. And Jordan Eberle,
two-way player too. Hall's
two-way player,
and that's huge.
Yeah, and Eberle, he gave them scoring, and Ryan Strome. I mean, with all the young forwards that the Islanders have going right now, with Bailey and Barzal, and obviously 91 down the middle. If a guy like Strome is expendable, I mean, he's got to be expendable for a reason. And he's not lived up to where he was picked in the draft. And to do these 1-for-1 trades where it's Larson for Hall, they didn't get any other sort of kicker back, and not getting anything other than Ryan Strome, who had proven nothing. At least Eberle had proven something. The fact that they don't have any depth scoring to go with Draisaitl and McDavid is quite frankly kind of a disgrace. And you've seen the regression in Cam Talbot a little bit too. He's not making some of the stops for them this year that he was last year, and that's why they're pretty much cellar dwellers this year, because Shea really has done a bad job. And
you know what I pin it on a little bit too is the Edmonton media, because the Edmonton media makes these guys out to be that they suck. And we don't want to admit it, but the media does. It affects how you think about stuff. If you see every day, an article about how Taylor Hall was -3 last night, Taylor Hall was -2 last night, Taylor Hall got a costly penalty last night, then fans are gonna believe that these players aren't good anymore, and they'll a perception begins to form that these guys can't play anymore. And I really think that's what happened in Edmonton. I mean, you saw it the other day how Taylor Hall responded to someone on Twitter about how people say he's not a winner, and you see it with Ebbs too, how Ebbs was basically run out of town there. I mean, like you just said, he got traded for Ryan Strome, who's done virtually nothing this season. And it's like if the Edmonton media gave these guys a little break, and instead of and actually watch the play and realize that Taylor Hall and Jordan Eberle were not the reason that the Oilers weren't good. The Oilers weren't good because look who they had on defense for the past 5 years. Look who's there has been in goalie for them. Nothing's gone right for them, and they kind of just pointed the finger at the wrong people.
And Drouin's not been good in Montreal either, and that was another big move where they traded Sergachev.
Oh God, how bad was that trade?
Yeah. Sergachev looks unreal. Fits like a glove there.
Yeah, Sergachev looks awesome. That's, again, like Bergevin. What the hell are you doing, buddy? I mean, he's got to get fired. And it's like he gets no shit at all. And I don't know what it is. The Montreal media, would rather point their finger at PK Subban than Mark Bergevin, because it's just ridiculous that, he's not getting any slack for anything. Like we can, and let's go back to that Subban trade real quick, because you look at that Subban trade and Weber trade, I still think that's a huge loss for the Canadians. Now when you look at the Canadians, it's like Shea Weber he's a great defenseman, but how many years does he have left? He's still got that huge cap hit, and I don't see Shea Weber donating $10 million to the Children's Hospital in Montreal. Like, PK Subban was great for Montreal. He's great for the city. He's great for the team. Great for the franchise, and really fucked him.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest gripes. I remember we mentioned this on an earlier podcast about there's just no, mutual loyalty between Subban and the franchise. Like you said, he donated copious amounts of money to hospitals, and then they just shipped him off to Nashville like he was, nothing. So
And PK's an unbelievable guy. We had the chance to meet him down in Nashville, and we met some of his family members too, a couple of his cousins, his dad, his brother, and his family is a great family. He is a great guy. I mean, it's just bullshit, how he was treated and how that all went down. But I couldn't be happier for PK that he's, in Nashville now. It's the perfect place for him. It's not too big of a market where he's going to be, crucified essentially for some of the stuff he's doing. But, I'm really happy to see them. And Nashville's my favorite team in the league right now. I love to watch Nashville ever since I went down there last year. It's a hell of a time. If you boys haven't been down there, you got to go catch a game down in Nashville because it's unlike.
I was actually there. I was down there during the cup clinching game. I watched it on the street, and I think we actually exchanged a DM before one of those games. Yeah. I think we had sent a Saturdays for the boys with Johansson video to you guys and stuff.
Yeah. That's I mean, how crazy is that environment down there? That was unbelievable.
And the women too aren't bad.
Oh,
so
don't even get me started. That was my favorite part. I could have. You didn't even have to. I told Rear Admiral that I was down to go without, I didn't need tickets to the game. I was down to just go hang out on the street and drink, meet chicks, and I'll watch the game in a bar or something. But I mean, that place is heaven.
All right, Mike, sticking on the defenseman front a little bit, you mentioned earlier that Oliver Ekman-Larsson, he might be on his way out of Arizona. That's a pretty stacked defenseman class. After next year, you got Drew Doughty. He's up. Erik Karlsson's up for a huge paycheck, and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Do you think it's quite possible, realistic, that Ekman-Larsson could be shipped off to another team? I said that Nashville is going to be in the hunt for another defenseman with Ryan Ellis being up. I think after this year, I don't foresee him being re-signed. So. Just imagining one of those three defensemen on the Predators, in addition to their existing defenseman core, it's pretty scary. So, what do you think about that class?
Yeah, I mean, that class that would be scary if Nashville did get one of those guys. But this upcoming class is scary, and it's even scarier that Doughty and Karlsson are going to talk about, what each of them deserves, and they're going to kind of converse together and kind of set the market together, which should scare every team that's going to be in the market for a number one defenseman, because, I'm sure they're going to be
Leafs, baby, Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto. Toronto's right. Toronto should get him. But yeah, I think I absolutely think Ekman-Larsson should be traded. When you look at what Phoenix has going, they have nothing going. The Coyotes really have just absolutely nothing going at all. They have Clayton Keller. They have Ekman-Larsson, and it's time, I think, just to cut slack with Ekman-Larsson. Get 2-3 first rounders, maybe a couple top prospects, and go from there. Try and get that number one overall pick and draft Rasmus Dahlin, because Rasmus Dahlin's going to be a franchise changer. He's compared to Karlsson, Nick Lindstrom. He's unbelievable. He's going to be unbelievable in this league for a long time. So, that's what I would do. On the Karlsson end, you'd think it's either now, it's either going to happen now or this summer, because it needs to. It's going to happen. And it doesn't sound like he's going to re-sign in Ottawa at all. That owner in Ottawa doesn't even sound like he's going to keep the team in Ottawa. And when you talk to players, it doesn't seem like a big deal to us, especially with what's going on down in Long Island right now. You want certainty. You want certainty as where you're going to play. If you're in Ottawa right now, there's rumors that you could be moved to Houston, you could be moved to Seattle, you could be moved to Quebec City. So there's zero certainty. No one wants to play there. There's talks of trading their best players. So, I think it was Bob McKenzie said it last week that he believes that this trade deadline will be more active than anyone he's ever seen in regards to big names. I don't know how true that is. That I don't want to say Bob's, but if more people think there's going to be trades, more people are going to be paying attention to what Bob McKenzie has to say. So, and I think that correlates a little bit. But I think it's going to be a interesting trade deadline, and I hope some of these guys get moved. I think that's why the NBA is doing so well right now, because of all the drama in the trade.
It's 24/7, 365.
Yeah, it is. It's trades, and like the second the season ends, it's free agency, and then trades, and then LeBron drama. What's LeBron going to do now? Like, if the NHL did that, like they need to make it, maybe it's the NHLPA, and they need to make it like easier to make trades or something, that because I mean that it would just help the game so much. I mean, back in the day when Marian Hossa was flipping from the Penguins to the Red Wings, and like that was awesome. That shit like makes you want to watch the game, and I hope there's more of that.
For sure. So with that three-headed monster on the blue line of free agent class in 2019, so that's coming, and certainly those guys are all going to get paid probably anywhere in the range of 11 to 13 million annually, if I had to guess right now, based on where the cap is. Or that's what I think is going to happen, at least, especially with Carlson. I think he makes the most out of all of them, for sure. Yeah, definitely the best guy in the league at that position. Teams that you expect that have be available and the talent on their roster, and maybe that's a nice free agent destination for those guys to go to. I chimed in with Toronto, but obviously they're going to have to pay Matthews and Marner and some other guys in the future. So as much as they want them, they might not necessarily be able to offer the most money. A team I actually threw out there, I'm trying not to get, fall into the trap of falling in love with them like everyone else, but we had mentioned the show last week. Could Las Vegas possibly be, the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm sorry. Could Vegas possibly be a free agent destination for one of these three defensemen? I mean, they look really good. They've got a coach who's really well respected. I mean, wives and girlfriends probably wouldn't mind living poolside in Las Vegas. The way their team has been set up and the way it's currently constructed, it seems like they're going to have a ton of cap space. So, I mean, if you want to go golf and lay by the pool and play for a good team, a good coach, make a bunch of money, what's stopping Vegas from possibly nabbing one of these three guys, just a couple years into existence?
No, yeah, that's a great call. I absolutely think at least one of these guys goes to Vegas.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that's some talk going on in the league right now, is that this Vegas team is scary because of the amount of cap space that they have coming up, the roster that they have built. I mean, if you talk to a guy like Ryan Whitney, who we do the podcast, who does Spit and Chicklets, he doesn't think this. He thinks this is, a lucky year. Their shooting percentages are like ridiculous right now, and it's like almost like unheard of how good it is. So he essentially thinks it's going to be like almost a lucky year. But I mean, they're nasty, and they're unbelievable at home. And yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, who wouldn't want to go live in Vegas and play? And especially the fact that they're getting an NFL team, one, and two, that fan base looks nuts out there. And why wouldn't you go out there? So yeah, I mean, I think they're a team. And then, it's tough to tell because, you could see a team like, I mean, you could see some buy. Like, what if Brent Seabrooks gets bought out by the Hawks? What if something like that happens? Or,
talk to me, man. Talk to me. I mean, we're all Blackhawk guys. I don't think they'll trade him, man, because he's got too much of a presence in the room right now. But to me, that was a legacy contract where you're paying a guy for what he's done and not for what he was going to do.
Yes, exactly.
And those contracts are what fuck you, though. Those are what got the Bruins in so much trouble.
And that's a problem when you have Kane and Taves making about $21 million a year combined. I mean, that's a serious problem when you're giving out $6.8 million a year. I don't know. You might have to check the numbers on that.
I believe it's 6.8, 6.9 around there. But dude, yeah, I mean, guys, this is why the Patriots do so well, is because they're always a year ahead before a year too late. You nothing emotional. It's all a business. You cut ties a year early before it's too late, and you're stuck with the guy.
Yeah, and luckily for the Hawks, though, they've got guys like Schmaltz and DeBrincat who are on currently entry level deals, and which are very team friendly. So that's allowing them to have some of these big time contracts. But the thing with the Hawks, though, is that they need these guys to step up in crunch time. Again, a couple first round exits in a row, and they play in, I'd say probably the toughest division in hockey right now with Winnipeg, Nashville, and St. Louis all in the Central. And so Chicago is an interesting one. I mean, I think, not just being biased as a Blackhawks fan, but there have been studies that have gone around the league, and people love playing in Chicago. It's one of the best buildings in the league. Like guys love the city, guys love visiting, but it's one of those things that sucks because, it's, there's a hard salary cap and you can't really, unlike the NBA or the MLB, you can't really pay like a luxury tax, and the Hawks print money, but they can't keep all these guys. I think you could basically field a playoff roster with the guys the Blackhawks have lost since 2010. I mean, if you look at the guys that they've lost, that's another thing I think is bad for the league. But I think Dan's got a quick question about the West too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you though on what you were saying there. I'll let him get you his question real quick. But no, I definitely agree. The hard cap sucks, and the Blackhawks, I feel like they've had so much success in the past because they were able to draft and play those guys like DeBrincat on those entry level deals, and now it's kind of biting them in the ass because I don't think they've had as much success as they've recently had. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then just sticking with the West, Nick just mentioned, St. Louis, Nashville, Winnipeg. Who else are you looking at out in the West? Just who's looking for you? We mentioned Vegas, obviously, has been a huge surprise. I thought they were going to squeak in a wild card spot. It looks like they're going to prove me completely wrong. Who are you looking for once, all 82 games have been played here?
Like we said, I like Vegas. Vegas is a good team. Tough to play. It's going to be tough to go there and play a playoff series. I really, really like this Nashville team. I've grown to love that team so much ever since I went down there last year. The Kings, I'm big on the Kings this year. They're playing awesome. They remind me a lot of the Bruins this year. And then, teams like Anaheim, Chicago, they're obviously out of the playoff race right now. But if those teams get in, there's no reason that they can't win a series. There's no reason like Anaheim couldn't win a series against Winnipeg or St. Louis. I mean, like we always talk about Ryan Getzlaf and how good he is and how much credit he doesn't get. But from the West, Winnipeg, Nashville, St. Louis, Vegas. I mean, LA. I mean, there's so many good teams. I mean, the fact that the Chicago Blackhawks aren't in the playoffs right now, like that should just go to show that the West is loaded.
Yeah, the playoffs right now are absolutely crazy with potential matchups. We had tweeted off our account like less than a week ago what the matchups would have been, and I think it was the 10th. It was going to be like Sharks and Kings, Blues Predators, Jets Stars, Hawks Knights, Leafs Bruins, Jackets Devils, Lightning against the Penguins, and then Caps Rangers, just round one. I mean, to me, that's like would be like the best first round of all time. I mean, you've got Sharks and Kings who have played each other in the past. I mean, Hawks, the old dynasty versus the new sexy team in town, Vegas. I mean, Pittsburgh, Tampa in the first round. I mean, you're talking like that was probably Eastern Conference final predictions like before the season started. Like, and that's almost a shame that might happen first round. I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, at the end of the day, though Pittsburgh's not in the playoffs right now, I mean, the argument can be made that Tampa and Pittsburgh are the two best teams in the East. I mean, any team with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on it, they're always a threat. They're always a threat to win. And then Tampa's so good with Kucherov and Stamkos and Nemestikov, and they're filthy.
Yeah, no, they definitely are. And you had mentioned this is kind of moving into another topic of discussion. The Cogliano suspension, it ruined his I believe it was 803 games he had, and it's gone now because of a 2-game suspension. I'm sure you saw the hit. I just wanted to see what you thought of the hit, and then for me, when I watched the hit, it just sort of brought up the whole NHL player safety thing. I don't know if they're as consistent as they should be with the amount of games that they give up for suspensions and such. And I just want, what do you think? What did you think of the hit? If you,
yeah. So first off, I mean, I saw the hit and I really don't think it was worthy of a suspension at all. to be honest. And the fact that, you know, they're going to ruin this guy's, it's just the NHL being the NHL. They just don't think at all. I mean, first off, a team that struggles so bad with marketing, and, you know, you have someone right here who 830 games played, like 830 games. October 4th, 2007 was when he made his NHL debut. And he's never missed a game since 2007. Like, that is so crazy when you think about it, especially when you think about what kind of player he is, one, and two, just this game in hockey. It's like, you know, I know you guys played, you guys were saying that you played hockey before too, but, and I think about this all the time, like all the guys in the NHL, they're not only the kid that was like the best on your team, they're the kid that was the toughest on your team. These are the guys that make the NHL are always the guys that are like the biggest savages too. They're taking pucks to the face, slap shots to the face, and going back in the game with a busted up jaw. It's crazy. So I mean, I just think the fact that the NHL, you know, ruined his streak and how remarkable that streak was, it's pretty bullshit, to be honest. I'm not happy with it.
No, I agree completely. And for people that didn't see the interview, he had an interview before one of their games, and he was still in a suit. And the guy interviewing was like, I didn't expect you to be in a suit still, you know, when your team's out on the ice. And he actually got emotional. He kind of he choked up a little bit. And it's, you know, I don't know. It's not the fact that he's suspended for the 2 games. It's what those 830 games meant to him and what it meant to his team. You know, it's more than just a number. And I hope people can really understand that. And just the ridiculous amount of, I mean, even half of that would be 415 games would be amazing, but it's 830, which is just ridiculous. And for a hit that was, okay, it was late, but I mean, the guy didn't get hurt in it. He was fine. He played the rest of the game. And it's just, like I was saying, to me, it just brings up a whole another discussion of the Department of Player Safety and how, I don't know, I'm like you. I'm frustrated.
So Jordy asked a question on his blog today, and I think it's a great question. He says, "Is this hit bad enough to warrant ending the 4th longest playing streak in NHL history?"
Yeah.
So that's like how you kind of got to look at it. Like let's have a heart here, NHLPA, you pricks. I mean, this guy is you know, busting his balls, and like you said, it means so much more to this guy than to, you know, I mean, what are we going to remember Andrew Cogliano for? We're going to remember him for the streak.
Yeah.
The guys, let's call a spade here. I mean, he's not Alex Ovechkin out there. I mean, he's an Iron Man. It's what he's going to be remembered for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. I completely agree with every point you made. It's so much more than just a number, and I feel like I don't know, I'm not saying that he should be spared of anything that he does. You know, I'm not saying give him free reign, but I mean, for that hit, it's like, come on, guys, really? I don't know.
Exactly.
So.
All right, Mike, we're going to try to wrap it up soon. But one question I know we all want to ask, this is kind of something we've tried to do with all of our guests, is gun to your head, who's winning the Hart this year? You know, you got guys like Kucherov and Stamkos who are just, you know, far ahead of everyone in the points column. So, you know, you might think it's one of those, but you got guys like McKinnon. You got a handful of guys that could be up by the end of the year. So, gun to your head, who do you got?
Oh, gun to my head, who do I have? Nathan McKinnon's a really, really interesting one. I mean, you know, I saw someone put it out on social media earlier that it might have been Adrian Dater. Someone put it up earlier, essentially that, you know, the Colorado Avalanche and essentially Nathan McKinnon would be essentially the story of the NHL this year if it wasn't for the Vegas Golden Knights and you know, how good Colorado has been after being, you know, essentially the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NHL last year. So yeah, from McKinnon, Kucherov is a stud. You know, he is so much fun to watch.
He was my dark horse pick before the years. Not to brag, not a big deal.
No, not a big deal, not a big deal. So
not a big deal.
That's definitely worth the brag because I mean, if he wins it all, then you have bragging rights over all your buddies. But yeah, I mean, I
didn't bet it though.
I would probably. Oh, you gotta bet it, dude. You gotta.
I forgot. We'll talk. We had a gambling question for you too, but
yeah, so futures bets, but yeah, I mean, I I would go with Kucherov right now.
Cool. I think there's something to be said too for MacKinnon.
Yeah.
When you look at, I mean, I know the team probably isn't going to make the playoffs, and that's a byproduct of how, you know, the aforementioned
roster.
Oh, dude, the Central Division is fucking sick. It's sickening as a Blackhawks fan, but I mean, it's a really, really good division. I think there's something to be said for the quality of play he's putting up against the quality of the competition. I mean, you're playing those teams all the time, and you look at the defensemen that are in the Central Division. I mean, Winnipeg's got some good guys on the back end. We know about Nashville's top four. You know, Chicago still has Duncan Keith, you know, and, you know, obviously Dallas has a guy like Klingberg and stuff. So really, you know, I think MacKinnon is just ridiculous this year. I would probably still go Kucherov. That whole line probably could.
They really could.
Nemestikov, Stamkos, and Kucherov is, I mean, it's just a sick line. And too bad we can't see Nemestikov and Kucherov play together in the Olympics with Russia. That would have been fun. See those guys
scary
on the same line. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother topic of just totally botched by the NHL. There is, you know, hey, you know, we want to market the best players in the league, but we're only going to do it if we can run the tournament like with the World Cup. And
we want to grow the game. We want to grow the game to Asia. Let's just send half the Bruins team to China in July instead of sending the best players in the world to the biggest stage ever. It's so friggin' stupid. It's ridiculous.
And I love Team North America too in the World Cup. Like, I still rock some of that gear, like, just in my own time. Like, I love that team. Probably some of the most fun I've ever had watching hockey. But I would have liked to see McDavid and Crosby play together rather than potentially against each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same thing with, like, Matthews.
Matthews and Eichel.
Exactly.
I mean, Matthews and Eichel, that would have been awesome. Team USA would have been awesome. It would have been the first year that USA would have gone in as almost favorites.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just for our final question, obviously as listeners of Spit and Chicklets that we all are, we know that you tweet some of your picks. We've seen the Sports Action app screenshots and stuff on your Twitter. And Wits and RA like to wet the beak a little bit with gambling, and some of us like to do some wagers and stuff, and had a little bit of recent success. But, you know, what's kind of your strategy when you bet on hockey? I mean, are you a big puck line guy? Do you do money lines? Are you, you know, we had talked about how I missed a big opportunity on the Kucherov futures bet, or maybe are there some teams that you've had success with? Like, personally, I think Kevin and I gamble more so than Dan, but we've noticed that, like, the Islanders games pretty much go over for the most part, and Tampa Bay, we've just been hammering Tampa Bay, and that's gone pretty well. I mean, you know, what is your strategy based on what you've seen so far this year and based on your experiences with betting?
So I went to the RA school of hockey gambling. So I've always been a big gambler. I've always gambled on hockey. I've never really been good at it. And, you know, one day I kind of sat down with RA after a show and kind of was like, you know what, RA, you win all these bets all the time. I would love for you to just to kind of break it down for me. How do you do this? And he gave me a ton of advice, and, you know, it's been extremely helpful ever since. You know, one main thing he says to look for is goalies. A lot of people bet on hockey games without looking at the goalies. You know, you could have the backup goalie in, you could have, you know, the goalie could be hurt. So goalies are always big to look at. I'm a big puck line guy, so I mean, I just think the puck line payout is better than, like, any payout in any gambling. You throw like $20 and you can win like 80 on just a simple puck line cover. So I'm a big puck line guy. Vegas at home this year, it's a lock. Wit Dog said it at the beginning of the year. He was like, I'm telling you guys right now, you bet Vegas, because he's like, I've been on hockey teams. I know that you're going to go into the city and you're going to go into Vegas and you're going to get in one. You're going to get mangled with the boys. So it makes sense that Vegas, you know, betting on Vegas at home is you'll make some money there. Back-to-backs, you know, if a team's on a road trip and they play back-to-backs, I always bet against the team that's in the second game of a back-to-back. That's like I've always thought that's like a lock. I don't like to see that anymore.
So many times from back-to-backs, like the Hawks in particular. They'll put up like fucking 5 or 6 goals in the first half of a back-to-back. Then, stupid me. Second game, I'll be like, oh, you know what? They're a lock. I'll just hammer the over, and they come out flat. And
that's what happens. You're like,
and how about this bye week thing too, man? It's crazy.
Yeah, the bye week too is in. They were Whit, Brad May. We had Brad May on this week, and they were saying to avoid betting on teams that are coming off the bye week, essentially because they got to get their legs back under them. They, a lot of them are, half the Bruins team was in South Beach, Miami this week. They're probably just getting in one every day. So, yeah. So I mean, there's a ton of axioms in hockey that, unlike other sports, you can, like we just said, with the back-to-backs, when, looking at the goalies, looking at, teams that are on, long road trips, if they're on a West Coast road trip and, they've played 3 or 4 games already, I'm usually going to bet against them there. Just things like that. I look where the public money is a lot too. And if the public money, I'll base a lot of my action off, where the public's basing their money. And, you can get real lucky like that. And I hammer overs. I'm always betting on overs. 5.5. If it's a 5.5 over, I'm usually taking it.
I liked your point, too, about the back-to-backs, because I think the goalie advice and the back-to-backs thing can kind of be intertwined, because a lot of times if a team's on a back-to-back, depending, on the back end of a back-to-back, let's say you're the Knights and you've got LA on a Tuesday and then Wednesday you're playing the Yotes, well, actually, this is a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it's like
with the Bruins, their backup, on the second day.
Bruins, they'll throw Khudobin in on the second night of the back.
But Khudobin, man, Khudobin's no slouch this year. He's real good. I don't know if people know that. I don't know if people know that, but he's real good this year.
Yeah, he's been great, but he's no Tuukka Rask there though.
True.
So yeah, I mean those things are all really helpful to me. I mean the RA School of Gambling. Follow him on Twitter. Just listen to the podcast and, kind of pick up on some of the stuff him and Whit say, because, I would be a terrible hockey gambler if it wasn't for those guys.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us. And we'd love to have you on again sometime. You're really I think the boys and I all really appreciate having you on.
Yeah, boys, thanks for having me on. It was a great time. I definitely want to come on again soon. This was fun.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
Hey,
thanks for coming on.
Real quick before we let you go, we're gonna edit this part out. But we'll DM you when we're gonna drop it. It might end up being tomorrow. Okay. If that's cool. If you wouldn't mind sharing it on your Twitter, that'd be a huge help. Part of
no problem, man.
We're going through a grassroots type thing where we think, we try really hard with the show and stuff, but it's all about the awareness right now. We have our own Twitter for it and stuff, but
man, you gotta, it's all, half of this podcasting shit it's all about social media and growing your brand. And, once you create that brand, it's you got to grow the brand, and so I'll no problem. I'll share the shit out of it.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll, when we get the tweet up we'll let you know when it's dropping, and then maybe we'll send you a second one. When it's officially on our Twitter account and stuff. So thanks again though for coming on. I mean, we said a half hour. It looks like we ran a little bit over. So but just not
fun.
Good epi though.
All right.
Yeah, great epi, boys. And hey, thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. Have a good one,
man.
All right, later, boys.
Bye.
That was fucking